You ready?
Yep.
Okay. You thought you were going to get out of it this week, didn't you?
No, I didn't think
You
that.
did. You were already in bed, and I had to come wake you up.
No, don't try to act. No.
and
You need to tell the truth in this situation. Why did I go to bed?
Well, I was resting my eyes to get ready for the podcast, and you took that as an opportunity to just call it a night.
No, I'm pretty sure I woke you up and said, "Are we doing the podcast tonight?" And you said, "Yeah, and then you laid back down.
It's not how I remember it. Anyways, welcome to episode 5.
Why do you have to yell that?
Episode 5 of After Bedtime with Stevan and
Kelsey.
You're getting better at that timing. So we're making this episode happen tonight against all odds. Again.
This was not my issue this time around. I was off TikTok. The phone was on the charger. You were not awake.
I'll take responsibility for that. There's a challenge with recording podcasts late at night and having to outlast the children because you start to get sleepy.
No, you can't say you. Only you.
I mean, like, I start to get sleepy.
Yes, only you do.
Anyways, though, I'm glad that we're doing it anyways. What do you want to start with? Let's start with the big happening. Let's start with Kyler turning 2. Excited?
Yeah.
I'm excited. Oh, by the way, I only have 1 cup of coffee, so that's the length of the podcast. It's basically going to be 1 cup of coffee, whatever that ends up being.
Okay. It's not going to be a very long one then.
So are you excited about Kyler turning 2?
I am. Are you?
I'm excited about it, but I'm also kind of sad about it. I get sad every time I like mourn each little version of themselves every time it goes. So like my favorite thing about Kyler right now is that his like waist and his legs are like the same size. He looks so cute running around. And then something happens and they start to get more proportional, and that for some reason makes them look less babyish and more toddler and more little boy, and that's always sad to see that too.
He's looking more and more like a little boy every day.
Yeah, and so you can kind of see that, and you're like, oh man. But now the 2-year mark really kind of hammers home, like, okay, now you're not tracking his age in months anymore, and
yeah, no,
he's legit too. So,
well, I was also thinking about it is that like last time around, like when Cal was getting ready to turn 2, we already had Kyler at that point. So if the timelines would have been the same for a third, which I'm not.
You want a third one?
FYI, nope.
Are we deciding to have a third kid on the podcast?
I just wanted to make it very clear that I'm not.
All right, I guess we're having a third.
Nope, we're not. I was just thinking that if it was the same timeline, we would have already welcomed a third.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy in retrospect, you know, when you're thinking about it in that terms. Like, obviously when it was happening with Cal, like...
Well, Kyler came a lot sooner than what we... Like,
No, I know,
us
like...
finding out we were pregnant came
we knew that, but then it's like, you know that in the moment, but then it seems even more extreme now thinking back about it. But just... going back to like whether I'm excited or not excited, I guess I'm both, and I think for every parent that's probably the case. Like at every age, there's things you're looking forward to and things you're gonna miss, and then there's probably also things you're ready to be done with and things you kind of have nervous about tackling. So looking forward, I'm excited about him being more better at communicating. So I'm excited.
Same.
I'm excited to get him to the place where Cal is, where it's like full sentences, more articulate, you know.
Because he still very much struggles with what he's wanting to say, or
Yeah,
if people aren't understanding what he's saying. We thought. I still think that Cal is more dramatic, but Kyler's level, when people don't understand him, I don't think it's necessarily drama. I think it's more of a temper. And he gets frustrated a lot easier than Cal did. And he tends to turn into little, as Erica says, quiet fury.
I'm really excited about that. I'm also excited about getting him out of diapers, but I'm also nervous. Like, I share your nervousness about the challenge that faces.
I was talking to Leah about it today. It's not necessarily that I think it's going to be harder. I just don't think his comprehension skills are of the same level as Cal's were at the same time. Cal's understanding of things just came a lot easier to him.
Yeah, and I think he'll get it. I just mean, like, of the things that we face between 2 and 3, that's a big one, and I think for him it just will be a little bit more work than what it was with Cal. Like you said,
he's kind of got two things against him right now. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I don't think his understanding skills are the same as Cal's were. Not saying that I think he's a pretty average toddler. And with the one kidney, I think it's just going to be harder for him to learn to hold it.
Cal is going to listen to this in the future and be like, they thought Cal was better than me.
I know, Leah. I think Leah tried to say that to me, and that's not true by any means.
No, I know it. I mean, I know what you're saying, but and then looking back, I'm excited to, or I guess I already talked about what I'm excited about. Looking back, what am I excited about? Looking back, I'm happy to get away from, because he's going to be able to communicate better.
You're struggling to communicate.
I know. Right, I'm excited to be able to not have him throw like the big temper tantrums about like everything is like a 10 on his scale.
I don't think those are going to go away as quickly as you think
I'm going to hope they're going to go away.
Because, like I said, his level of frustration his 10 comes a lot faster than all other toddlers. Not all other toddlers. I guess our only really view is Cal. His 10 comes a lot quicker than Cal's did. Cal would kind of like melt whenever he wasn't being understood or something like that, but Kyler's turns to rage very quickly.
And then I'll miss the waist to leg proportion of a little baby boy. But
what do you mean by that? Like, are you saying just because his belly looks so big?
No, it's just they look. It's just because they're still in that stage where like their head is still proportionally way too large for their body, right? Compared to like the proportions of an adult, or an adolescent or teenager. And
I think Cal was rocking that a lot harder than Kyler.
But like it just as they grow into like the normal proportions, so to speak. It's kind of like when people like see pictures of babies like squatting perfectly. Like babies can squat perfectly because their heads are so heavy. They create this like perfect forward counterbalance to the rest of their body. So it's very easy to like get down into that bottom squat position without as much work and effort as an adult has. So it's just, those proportions look so funny and so cute and everything because they symbolize that like that babyish stage. And then as your proportions become more of like an adult like ratios, you're like, oh man, they look less like a baby. Mm-hmm. It's just reminding that they're getting older. What about you?
But I mean, pretty much the same things that you were saying. I'm sure everyone's ready for me to not have to do the parent talk anymore of one of my children saying something and me repeating exactly what they say so that people understand what they're saying. But I've gotten so used to it that sometimes now I realize that people do understand.
I think it's funny.
I just repeat it.
I think that's funny though, because it's almost like your kids are. It's funny because like you are around your kids so much, and you're trying to listen so hard to what they're saying that you really do develop a really in tune sense of what they're trying to say, even if they're not saying.
I speak Cal. And
yeah, you speak Cal. It's like they're, but to everyone else, it's like they're speaking Klingon.
Yeah.
Because like sometimes my mom or David or they'll be like listening and you can just tell on their face that they're trying really hard to.
Well, it's really funny because your mom is the funniest at it because she wants to pay 100% attention to them and show them that respect of listening to them, but then she'll like secretly kind of just look up and make eye contact with
because
the
you're
parent.
watching them and you can tell that they're not quite getting everything that the kid is saying.
Yeah.
But it's funny because to you it's like, oh, I totally know what they said.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It's interesting how.
It's funny times because I even don't realize how much I understand and how much other people don't understand, because when I'm watching it happen sometimes I've just made myself get used to just repeating what they say just so that everyone just knows, but there is moments where I'm like, oh, that was clear as day, and people are still like, what?
I think it's funny when you parrot stuff back to them and then they just repeat to you the way they think it's supposed to say, and you're like, and you keep parroting.
Oh my gosh, Cal is really struggling with some words right now. What was?
But it's because the way for some reason the way you're saying it, that they're hearing it that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're hearing, for some reason, your pronunciation in their ears.
I don't remember what word it was, but once I remember, I'll say it. But today, Cal was really struggling with a word, and I kept repeating it back to him, and he was looking and repeating it, and he was like I know.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm saying it. Stop acting like I'm not saying it. And I'm like, dude, it's totally wrong.
So that's exciting. I'm gonna make a video for Kyler, and
it's a big deal.
I'm working on the deadline here.
It's also a little sad because, I know at 1 that officially meant that he's like not a baby anymore. But I kind of feel like 2 is hitting a little harder because that officially 100% means that there's no baby in this house anymore.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happens between 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Just last night, looking at the videos from like exactly a year ago, like he was
even with Cal
he was
like
just getting
baby.
His legs under him.
Yeah.
Like Jan 31st of last year, he was just starting to really like.
Well, I think he was on the same timeline as Cal. Like, he wasn't walking on his first birthday.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But it was hysterical because he would stand forever. He totally had the strength to do it. Cal never stood like that. Kyler just didn't want to.
It's funny. That's a phrase you use when you want to segue. It's funny.
What?
It's like, you're moving from one thing to the next, so you kind of use like a phrase to try to connect it. So,
no, but I don't really think you're supposed to like tell the audience that.
No, it's just, I think because sometimes it sounds out of place, or it sounds very engineered, so it seems normal to like acknowledge how engineered. Anyways, it's funny talking about that because the other thing that I think Kyler turning 2 has really hit home, and we kind of touched on it a couple times in that, just talking about things we're excited about, things we aren't, is just how significantly different siblings can be, even though they're of the same parents, they have grown up in the same house, and for the most part, I mean, we've been it's not like we've significantly deviated.
I don't think we were as consistent with things like we were with Cal.
Well, I'm not saying that the amount of attention is the same.
Yeah.
Obviously, it can't be. It just, by the sheer math, there's 2 of them. right? But
I think with teaching with Cal, just because it was just one, he got a whole lot more of
well, he spent like the
like
whole
structure.
first 15 months of his life at just being him.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's just the temperaments, like just the, like even beyond that, like you would think that your kids in a lot of cases would have very similar, they'd be born, and because they have very similar genes and they have very similar environmental conditions in terms of the house they grew up in, the parenting, the socioeconomics, that their temperaments and their behaviors would be really similar, but they're not.
Well, you should know that just with your brother and sister.
Oh yeah, I mean we can all speak to that. You're very different than your siblings. I'm very different than my siblings.
Yeah, but I don't think that me and my siblings are so drastically different than you and your siblings. Like me and my siblings' sense of humor is pretty much the same. Like there's a lot of stuff that's pretty much the same, but you, Wayne, and Erica are not the same at all.
Well, I think I personally feel like our family is very classic birth order.
Yeah.
In terms of siblings, like I feel like we're very, like our birth orders, we very, very classically modeled
the
stereotype of that kind of birth order, where you've got the oldest who's like always follows the rules, does everything right, is kind of like the caretaker or pseudo parent at times for the younger, and then I think the middle being me, like I was kind of able to like bridge both worlds and be kind of the compromiser, not rock the boat too much. And then my brother was like full on baby. Like I get what I want, when I want, how I want it. And not like in a bad way, not like in a bratty way, just like the baby tends to be the one who there's more leniency around it. I think parents just by the second or the third or whatever.
Well, I just think they start realizing that not everything in the world is going to kill them.
Yeah, and not everything.
And you just become a little bit more relaxed in situations.
And not everything is a must. And they've kind of realized, like, parents have learned what is the vital few and what is the trivial many, and they've like boiled it down to like, we need to focus on these things, and these other things probably we were a little bit too worried about. And so and then I feel like the youngest benefits from that in a way. Anyways, so that being said, like some of the things that like blow my mind between, and to your point, like yes, we all inherently.
Hold on, pause.
Yeah.
Do you think they're gonna be able to hear him snoring?
Opie? Maybe. Opie's snoring very loudly. Opie's our dog. Opie's our wiener dog. It's one thing like to see it in your own siblings.
Yeah.
But it's another thing to see it in your own kids, and you're just like, what is this wild hair child about? And Kyler's very much. Your
video that you posted the other day of him running around you, if that's not just a glimpse of Kyler 100%.
Yeah, and it's crazy because he is such like, our kids got such a great mixture, I feel like, between our two personalities, because Kyler is so much more our wild child, but he is also so much more the quiet one. Mm-hmm. And the like, when I've had enough, and I'm gonna go over here and do my own thing. And not that he's like not saying that he's totally introverted, but he just has.
I think he's a pretty good middle.
Which is weird because level. He's got this like real wild, out there, excitable personality, but then like he can very quickly turn into like, it's not wild. It's more like he's doing his own thing. He's having his own time. He's gonna do what he thinks is fun and interesting and stuff. Yeah. But then he'll also kind of go off there too.
But I wouldn't mark him on the level of equal. I think he's kind of lower. I think he's a higher level introvert because he doesn't like a lot of people.
No.
He doesn't like big crowds. He's okay in his comfortable, quiet home, and that's where he feels the most comfortable to be wild Kyler.
And then he balances that with being like, he's much more of a risk taker.
Yeah.
He likes the thrill of things, like even just in the small stuff. Like obviously he's not doing like high risk level activities, but just you can just tell like when he wants to jump off things, he wants to slide off things, and that's exhilarating to him.
Yeah.
You know, versus Cal is like, he's very gregarious and this big social personality, right? But then at the exact same time, he kind of hedges everything. He wants to know exactly what's going to happen. He wants to understand the consequence.
That's probably my worry.
Yeah, he wants to follow the rules. He wants to do what you're supposed to do. Things are supposed to go where they're supposed to go.
But he is now starting to like retest the boundary of like, is this like really that important of a rule?
But I think that's probably part of the whole toddler thing.
Yeah, but that also could be because he has a younger brother that's pushing the limits all the time.
They're rubbing off on each other. I don't know. You wouldn't expect it, but I guess that's how God keeps it interesting, and that's probably how He keeps us on our toes. I think as parents, it does teach you that you realize from the get you have to
parent differently.
Yeah, you realize from like macro, you have to treat them equally.
Yeah.
But then in the tactics of how you go about doing that, you have to approach each one individually in their situation, where they're at and where you are at. Because I feel like Cal, we were always able to be a little bit more logical and a little bit more explanation and help him understand.
And that's what I'm saying of his comprehension skills. If he understands why you're telling him no, he's like, okay.
Versus Kyler's not that like that. Kyler's just kind of you have to mark the boundary and just know that he is not going to like it and he's going to be upset, and you just have to move on.
But you have to like mark it hard.
Yeah, and you have to set it and be consistent.
Throw down the hammer the first time, and then he'll throw a big huge fit.
And you have to just let him. You can't just wallow in it. You can't engage in it. You just have
because as soon as you start going, oh, what's wrong, bud? He feeds that feeds him
the drama.
Yes, because he'll just spiral more, and it gets more dramatic and more big deal. Like I've gotten to the point of where I just am legitimately having to just walk away when he's acting like that, because my presence alone is making the drama bigger than it needs to be.
The joys of parenthood.
Mm-hmm.
Have kids, they said. It'll be fun.
I do think it is fun.
No, it is fun. It is fun. On a little bit more of a unhappy note, though, a big thing in the news, very shocking thing in the news, is Kobe Bryant and his daughter, and like there was a coach from Oregon, like a baseball coach, and his family. There's like 9 people, I think, on that flight. One
of the other women on there was like a fellow coach with Kobe for those basketball teams.
Yeah, so like just that whole like obviously they
said
most people I would think are aware of this, but just to kind of summarize it, Kobe Bryant, his daughter, a number of other individuals died in a helicopter crash. Was it early, like Sunday morning? It was Sunday morning. And everyone had a reaction to it, it seemed like just looking like through social media and interwebs in general, like everyone was impacted by it. And not disrespectfully, so I don't use that word disrespectfully, so because obviously the level of impact of that tragedy on somebody who's like the wife or the other children of those people is, I mean, that's just like, it's life altering or life changing. But I think that it was impactful. It was impactful to me, and I think it was impactful for a lot of people for I believe a big reason, because it made something that is so cliche so visceral and real for a lot of people, which is, live every day like it's your last, or not every moment's guaranteed, or there's only the now. Like all these cliche things people talk about and say about how basically tomorrow is not promised. It sometimes it feels like that's true, but it's true for other people. It's not, it's
I
not.
just don't think people think of it. It's not like in the forefront of their mind.
It's not in the and I think there's always. I feel that in some way, shape, or form, we all hold on to this little bit of it can't happen to me. But then when it happens to somebody like that, meaning somebody who has celebrity and success and stature, and somebody that you just think it can't happen to, just the way you think it can't happen to you, it suddenly is like, it can happen to anybody, regardless of who you are, where you're from, how much money you make, how successful you are. And obviously Kobe Bryant's legacy, all those people's legacy is much bigger than that. But I feel, or the sense I got from people, and at least the feeling I had, was that's what was making it so impactful, was this thought of like, well, yeah, I could get in my car tomorrow and the same thing could happen to me. Taking my kid to this, or taking myself to work, and it just kind of reevaluates the way in which you treat the people around you and the way you interact with your life, because you start to think, well, like even my problems are a blessing because I'm still here.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of it's very similar to one of those topics that we spoke about before, of just, if you have a feeling of communicating, do it. Because you don't know.
You just don't know if you'll get that opportunity back.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to bottle that, because so many times we hear things like that and we're like, yeah, okay.
Well, I mean,
I've still got to live my life now. I still have to deal with my work. I've got to plan for retirement.
Yeah.
You get so caught up in this,
I still even regret this slightly, and I'll try very hard to not get choked up about it. But when I went to go visit Papa in the hospital on the Monday before he passed, even then I was in so much denial of, when visiting him and then going to leave, I almost had like this whole scenario in my head, like, oh, he's fine.
Yeah, because I think that's totally human though. Is you not only you don't want to confront your own mortality, but you also find it hard to confront others, because in confronting another's mortality, you have to also be like, well, that's going to happen to me.
Yeah.
Eventually my life is going to run out.
Well, I mean, like when I said goodbye, I told him I'd be back, and told him that I loved him, and then I left, and that was the last time.
And you don't, and those two, like obviously like our grandparents passing and Kobe Bryant's tragic death, such different situations, but illustrated at the same point.
Yeah.
Which is, whether it's when you're 41, like it was for Kobe, or 13, like it was for his daughter, or 76 for your grandpa, your life is going to run out at some point. Like your number is going to get called, and the challenges that is so profound and so impactful. The challenge then becomes, how do I bottle that and carry that with me every day, so that it informs how I act and how I treat my life, how I treat the people around me, how I treat the problems in my life, how I treat the good things in my life. That's the challenge. And I think that's probably, we don't do it justice enough, but we should, because it is the profound truth, is that anything in the future is fictional, and anything that's behind us is gone forever. Yeah. There is only these.
Well, I mean, Kobe wasn't. I mean, no way in heck Kobe was thinking that that would happen when he got on that helicopter. But I mean, I heard that he had been talking about how much better his daughter was at the same age he was at basketball, and he was already like trademarking like a name for all of her stuff to go on like clothing and stuff like that for whenever she was, you know, in the NBA. And so it's just crazy to think that, I mean, you don't think about your 13-year-old.
No, you don't. But I think that's the challenge though, is to do that, is to find a way to, because what the benefit of that is that thinking about your own mortality, like the Stoic philosophers like Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, these really ancient, smart people, they would basically encourage others to like ponder their mortality and ponder the mortality of their children, because it wasn't supposed to be morbid. Like a lot of people take that and they think of it like morbid, like, well, I don't want to think about my death. I don't want to think about the death of others. And like I get the sentiment, but the trick is it's supposed to help give you perspective, right? Like for example, I'll use a very personal example. If there's an issue with a product that I develop at work and a customer has a complaint, it's very easy to become very stressed about that, right? Like, well, I'm gonna get in trouble, or my boss is gonna be upset, or we're gonna lose this customer, and we're gonna lose this volume or this money, or what am I gonna, like, you start going in a million different directions, all these stressful events. But if you can remember that you're immortal and you could walk out of the building and die, all of a sudden that doesn't seem like that big of an issue. You can it puts things in perspective and reorients you to think, okay, well, this is a blessing that I have this problem. How can I attack this problem? How can I deal with this problem? Because it's not really a big thing, and I can take care of this. Because either way, I should be thankful and happy that I'm here, you're here, my kids are here. Like, life is good. Mm-hmm. And that's probably easier said than done, but to me, it's, I feel like the people who are the most happy and the most successful in the world, they have that really big perspective. You know, they have that big perspective of like, yeah, I'm kind of pissed that my yoga class got canceled, but like also there's starving kids in Africa. So really, there's nothing to be pissed about. Not saying that your problems aren't problems. It's just in the grand scheme of things.
You're still allowed to feel those feelings.
Yeah, you can feel it. You can
be irritated, but the biggest thing is just to feel it and then let it go. Yeah,
and acknowledge like, hey, if nothing else, I got it pretty good.
Yeah.
And I mean, that isn't, I hope that people won't take that as like us trying to use, or me encouraging others to use other people's poor circumstances or suffering as a life hack, because that's not what I'm meaning, because like I have empathy and sympathy for people in those positions. It's more of just to like get yourself out of your own head. That's what it's meant to do, is like get yourself out of it. Stop thinking so much about yourself and your life and your problems, and look at this in the grand scheme of things. There are much bigger issues that need to be addressed than what then, you know.
Well, I mean, just like I said, just you're allowed to feel those feelings, but you need to also realize that you need to push past it, because you are in much luckier circumstances than other people.
Yeah. So rest in peace to all those people, and definitely, I guess, prayers and things of that nature for them. But I think there's, from a very negative situation, I think it's interesting to see a large portion of the population respond with a lot of positivity and a lot of love and gratitude. And
well, I also think that kind of just shows the type of character that Kobe was, of how much impact he had on people when he was alive. Because I didn't really I don't watch basketball, so I just knew Kobe as he's a good basketball player. But after watching everyone's reactions to it and stories and stuff like that people have been talking about, you just realize oh my god, he was one of the great ones.
I don't think people would have had the reaction they would have unless he had had an impact on people's lives.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of a tragic, morbid topic, but I think important to mention.
Especially a mega switch from talking about her child's birthday.
Yeah, it kind of pulling from opposite ends there, celebrating birth, but also I feel really passionate about that. I feel really passionate about keeping perspective in your life, and I think, I told Lane this, back to the whole Stoic thing. I can't remember if it was Seneca or Epictetus. One of them, though, super morbid, and most parents will just hate this, but he would say when you lay your kid to bed at night, you should hug them and kiss them and look upon them as if they won't be there in the morning, to make you realize how good your life is, how blessed you are in that moment. Because all around the world there are people who are going to put their kids to bed, or are going to lay down with their kid because their kid is sick or ill or for whatever reason, and they won't be there in the morning. And I'm passionate about that, because all of a sudden your life gets a lot happier and a lot more fulfilling when that becomes your expectation, instead of, I need to have the best kids, I need to be in this $300,000 home, I need to drive a $60,000 car, I need to have the best job. When you start layering out all these things that you need to have this quote unquote happy, successful life, when all of a sudden your expectation is I'm healthy, my family's healthy, and everything else is icing on the cake, life gets just so much better. Anyways, moving on from mortality, this one's kind of very tactical and strategic, but I thought it would make for a good topic. Is and you can share more than probably I can share on this, but what are some strategies or tactics or tips that we've come up with now that we're on are we in our 4th year of parenting? So Cal's going to turn 4, so this would be our 4th year of parenting. We're actively completing our 4th year of parenting, that we've come up with to manage the day-to-day of raising kids. And what I'm getting at is, when you're with kids all day, every day, day in and day out, it's a lot. There's just a lot of energy, a lot of needs to meet, a lot of wants to fulfill. And I'll just give an example. So for me, I feel like one of the big tactics that is really important, for me on the weekends, is we have to break up the day. Some way, shape, or form. We have to bust.
Yeah, but I think sometimes that's just for you.
No, no, totally. And I think, and that's what I'm getting at, is because these are less for the kids. The kids are they're just gonna live their life, right? That's the way they are. But for parents, managing that so that it doesn't overwhelm you, or doesn't stress you out, or doesn't create anxiety that's not needed or whatever. I feel like one thing is when we have the weekends, breaking up the day, or maybe a better term for it is giving structure to the day. We're gonna go out and we're gonna do something, we're gonna come back. Even if it's we get up, we go get some donuts, we come back. For some reason I feel like that makes the day so much more manageable. The day goes by a little bit quicker, a little bit easier. So that would be one strategy for me, is you got to have a little bit of schedule and a little bit of structure. That way the day isn't just the same thing end on end on end. That being said, I only have 2 days with them, so I thought maybe you have some.
I do agree that does need to be some sort of structure to your day, because I understand that when moms or really just stay-at-home parents feel like, well, I'm home, so they can take a nap when they want, they can eat when they want, and I also agree with that, but that you do, for your own sanity, need to have some sort of structure to the day where you know that, okay, like I plan my days of, we get up, we eat breakfast, we play at the house, or we'll go and do something, and then I know that they're going to be taking a nap between noon and 1. But also they could take a nap at 11. Take a nap at 11:30.
There's some flexibility
it's just,
there.
I do know that it's more flexible now that they're more toddler adults. When they're babies, you kind of have to stick to that schedule, or you're gonna have a baby that's falling apart.
Yeah, cranky.
A baby can't tolerate it as well as a toddler can.
But that illustrates the point of like the routine when they're real little is somewhat out of necessity to meet the need of sleep. But then as they get older, it still is a necessity in some ways, because that provides those milestones in your day: wake up, breakfast, nap time,
and
lunch.
If you're a parent of multiple children, you gotta do the best you can to get them on the same sleep routine, because every single person in the world, I know you love your children so much, but everyone needs a break.
Yeah, that's I guess,
if you can have 40 minutes to 2 hours to 3 hours, whatever you can get out of them, you have to do that for yourself, just so that you can watch what you want to watch, so you can eat food without little hands taking it off your plate. Because like I feel like I'm a very, very outgoing personality, but if I don't have that hour in the middle of the day, I'm like shot by the end of the night.
No, I believe it. I think that's probably the better way to frame my question on this topic. Is it's more of things to help you stay sane, things to take care of your mental health, so that you can basically.
Well, and I spoke to a friend about this, because her family, she's pregnant, and her family came to the rescue to kind of help her finish little nesting stuff that she needs to get done, and she said she felt so bad in the situation because her family did it. Here's the thing, guys, you really gotta let that go. If your family or friends is willing to help you in a situation when you have small children, let them do it, because that is one big thing that will help your sanity. Let go of the pride of certain situations of, oh my gosh, my family came over and my house is disgusting. Here's the thing, they're your family, and they're going to love you no matter what. Yeah, there'll be maybe some snarky comments later, but you got to let that go. And also, if you're, reach out to your friends and family. If you need help, if you're having one of those moments where you do feel like, oh my gosh, they won't sleep and I can't take it anymore, call someone. Call any of your friends, any of your family, and I guarantee you they will come running to help you. Because the majority of the people in those situations have been there.
I guess my challenge to you would be, though, so how do you, though, get over that? Because I feel like that's something you still struggle with in terms of being vulnerable enough to say that.
I think I have a certain group of people that I'm willing to be vulnerable to. And I'm okay with letting go of that. I know that I can call my mom and your mom if I'm having one of those moments. Even if they can't get to me right then and there, I know that they will rescue at some point in time to where I can get done what I feel like I need to get done. I don't think that I am in agreement with my friend, as I don't feel as comfortable to like let people clean my house. or anything like that. But also, I do think that if your family is wanting to do that for you to help you, I think that you shouldn't feel guilty or bad because your family wants to help you out, because they're your family and you would do the same thing for them.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring this up because I think that part of like leveling up is having the self-awareness to know when you're under, what's the best way to describe this? When you're being challenged a little bit, like when like your kids are getting on your nerves and you're starting to lose your patience and you're having a hard time being the parent you want to be, and understanding how normal that is. Like that's part of this struggle. That's part, like anything in life, you're going to be challenged when you're trying to do something, and having a bag of tactics that you can go to aid yourself in being able to be the parent you want to be. Like you don't need to just suffer through it. You can draw on these things that help you have a better day or be a better parent.
I think some of the biggest things that you need to look out for in your own children to help you in those situations is know their favorite stuff that they like to watch. A really, really good one is Blippi. If you can put on Blippi for 30 minutes or even less than that, 20 minutes, just so that you can finish the dishes without somebody needing something from you, that's a win.
Mm-hmm.
Just find little things like that. Like I know if I put on Monsters Inc. and I make popcorn, Kyler's not moving.
Yeah, you
until that popcorn is gone.
And I feel like sometimes we don't do a good enough job of reviewing the film, so to speak, and thinking through, okay, what did I do that was really helpful and what did I do that was not? Yeah. And then trying to make sure I keep that playbook of like, okay, to make my days good, I need to put, like, just to recap kind of what we talked about, to make my days good, I need to put structure to the day. I need to have a plan of action, have somewhat of a schedule with some flexibility into it, but I know about at these times, about at these moments, this is where we're going to be. Mm-hmm. And I know we need to find ways to, or over time, develop relationships with people that I can be vulnerable with and have a close circle of people that I can reach to for help when I need help with, things that I'm comfortable with receiving help on. And that way you're not in a panic state because you feel alone. Like you've done the work to, okay, these people are these are my little circle of helpers, What was the other one?
Even if you just have that person in your life that you feel comfortable enough to just vent to, that relieves a lot of the stress and anxiety from me, I know, because I know that I can call Jordan, I can call Courtney, I can call Allie at any point in time and just complain, and they're like, yep, how you're feeling is totally okay. And then that relieves a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I think
for me.
Parenting is such a blessing, but there is something about parenting that is.
It's not for the weak.
It's not for the weak. There is a high performance nature to it, in the sense that you're always on. You have a lot of things that you need to do well, and you need to do right, and you need to get them right the first time. Mm-hmm. And so there is some high pressure and some high performance. There is no down days. There are no off days. And so I think as just as someone who would look at this more from like the aspect of like an athlete or like someone who has to perform, is we need to find the ways to put ourselves in positions to succeed, and not put ourselves in positions to fail. Like, this is hypocritical at the time because we're recording this podcast so late, but if you're somebody who needs sleep, You know what I mean? Don't push it late at night to get your extra time. Like, you need to be in bed so that you can wake up the next day and be the parent you want to be.
And I'm somebody who needs sleep.
Yeah, exactly. And but that is that's where those things become very...
I can push it on some days and be fine.
Correct. And those things become very individualistic, but the point remaining that...
Just know yourself, know your kids, know your best escape routes.
Yeah, and take time to reflect on those. On those things.
Because you feel that way, does not mean you're a bad parent.
No.
You're allowed to be stressed. You're allowed to feel amped in situations. You just need to know yourself well enough to let go of those feelings. And if you do spiral out of control and snap, you need to be able to realize that you did wrong in that situation and either go apologize to your kids or have a conversation with your kids on why this happened and that you're sorry that you got that loud or whatever in the situation. You're not a bad parent. You're doing great. Just, I don't know where I was going with that. I lost it.
No, you're just reiterating the fact that you have to find what works for you and be mindful of it and not just feel like it's this mysterious set of circumstances that you have no control over, but look at it as something that you can have direct control over and you can affect how your days go and how your days with your kids go. There's always going to be those outliers, but you can definitely put yourself in a better position to succeed with anything in life if you take the time to think about what worked and what didn't work, and how can I continue to do what worked and not do what didn't work.
And also, here's the thing: if you have toddlers, every day is going to be different.
Yeah, all bets are off, right?
Not all bets are off, but I mean, just...
No, you're right. I mean, you can
have that routine, and that routine works so well with you for the first 3 days, and then the rest of the week, all of a sudden, that, sorry for my language, pisses your toddler off, and you no longer have a good day. It's just you have to be able to have a schedule, but also be okay with breaking away from that schedule.
You have to be adaptable. I mean, life's dynamic, so you have to be willing to change. Yeah. It's not one of these things you're going to do this once and it's going to work forever.
Yeah.
It's a constant process.
Really, if you have great skills of managing a restaurant, you could probably be okay with raising a toddler.
Yeah, there's a lot of managing a household, managing kids. I think there's a lot of skills that are developed and that are necessary to be successful at that are they compare very well to operating in the professional world, to deal with people, to deal with lots of different people.
If you are good in high stress situations, be a breeze.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily if you're good or if you're not good. It's more
no, it's if you can handle those situations well, you can handle your life a little bit better.
Yeah, but I feel like that's also I feel like anyone though can learn anything. So I feel like kids are just a really great way for you to learn. They're a great way to show you.
That's why I made the comment of if you were a manager of a restaurant at some point.
Yeah, you
have learned those skills already.
Yeah, you're gonna be ahead of the game
because all your employees are babies, and there's just constant shit happening every 2 seconds.
Do you have anything else? I had something else, but I'm gonna save it for the next episode because it's just too big of a topic to.
Is it gonna make me ramble?
No, I don't think
We're already past our time.
No, it's not even think it's ramble. I think it's a topic that will do more justice if we give it 15 minutes or something, like a third or 2/3 of the podcast. So I'm really glad that I woke up. I just needed to close my eyes. I needed to rest my eyes. That's all I was doing.
Stop. Know yourself. Stop being in denial. You fell asleep. Steven doesn't
Yeah,
sleep,
I
everyone.
fall
That's
asleep.
the issue. Steven doesn't sleep. I'm pretty sure he's a vampire. He likes to fake sleep to show that he is a human, but really he's a vampire and just doesn't sleep.
I just needed that half hour to an hour to rest my eyes. Ask all moms. You're just resting your eyes. That's all.
I'm
right?
just saying, I'm a mom, and I don't say that.
What was I? I was gonna say. I was gonna say basically, I'm glad that I woke up. I'm glad I came and got you out of bed so that we could record this podcast. I think it was good conversations, and I
feel like it was a little chaotic.
No, I think it was all really. I mean, I feel like the biggest jump was birthday to the discussion of mortality, but I think that it's kind of interesting to pull from both ends of the spectrum at the same time.
Really, it's just interesting how your mind works.
But I'm glad we did it. I had fun. I like talking to you. I enjoy talking to you. And I hope that you guys enjoyed listening. Do you like talking to me?
I was joking.
You don't like? Oh, like no, you were saying like, man. Fair enough. So I hope everybody else enjoyed it. Let us know what you thought. You can find Kelsey on Instagram at kfreeborn412. And you can find me on Instagram at steven.freeborn. That's probably the best way to get in touch with us and let us know what you thought. I think I would just reiterate what we asked in our last episode. If there's any questions or topics or things that you would like us to rant and ramble about, just message us there.
That's what the podcast should be called, Ranting and Rambling with Steven and Kelsey.
And that'll do it for episode 5. So we'll see you guys in the next one.
That'll do it.
That'll do.
That'll do, donkey.
That'll do.
Spring is in the air like a drum snare. Buds are bursting.